Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Monte and Wolf Show with dGon. Yes, we're getting closer and closer to changing the name to the KFE show for all the OGs. If you know, you know. Myself, dGon, alongside Wolf, both of us KFEs. Wolf, we had only 5 matches in the LCK this week. Not as much to parse through, and definitely not that much quality to parse through, especially on Sunday, man.
It's so common in the LCK, as you know, from watching and then obviously working on it now, for the first rounds of playoffs, in this case play-ins, to just be tier list gaps. And you just have like, oh, okay, well, all these teams matched up against each other, but we have clear favorites. There's a higher seed and a lower seed. Higher seed wins out. It didn't feel like going into this playoff bracket that's necessarily how it was going to go.
Yeah.
But it was. And the games were not very great. They were not great. They were not close. And it just ended up being mostly like a weird appetizer that didn't taste great, but it really made you like go, oh, thank God playoffs is coming, because this was a mess.
Yeah, like the only one that didn't go that way was the DRX and Nongshim match, and we will cover all of those. But I think you guys liked it so much, we're gonna go through a couple of comments here from last week's episode, and it starts off with an analogy master. It's his professional job to make sense of things. Sometimes a vehicle to make sense of things are analogies, and Wolf last week used isn't, like so-and-so isn't the tallest lamp in the room, and we spent a little bit of time there, and our friend Colin 5197 said Wolf certainly isn't the tallest lamp in the room. So I like how
do something with my lamp last week or something. I feel like I was like walking around during the episode and like pointed something out. I don't remember what happened.
No,
I got
Wolf.
super animated. I don't know. I'm on a lot of talk shows, so I can't remember. Like, I'm like, did I do something with the lamp? Did I use the lamp as a prop? They're like, no, Wolf, it means you're not smart. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was not good. What you did talk about last week was Duro playing sick, and he had like a sick game. We rarely get those kind of things. And Max Ryder Kiva brought up in 2023, Dokdam played with the cast when he broke his arm. I wasn't here for that, but that happened. Like, yeah, I don't.
So he was like, I don't remember what happened. I think we once knew, but I don't remember. But like, anyway, he was injured. Like, his wrist was injured. And he was wearing a cast. Like, maybe he broke his arm straight up. And so they were using a substitute. I'm trying to remember who it was at the time. But anyway, they were okay, but not great, right? And then it went to the final game, and then Dokdam just comes out and, like, when they announced the sub, like, it's just like the cameraman's like on his cast and it like zooms out and it's like Dokdam subbed in. And we were all like, whoa! And then he actually played really well, and they won the game. It was pretty crazy. Like, Dokdam was like, I'm so sick of this. I'm gonna put this into my own single unbroken hands.
Wait, was it his mouse hand that was broken or his keyboard hand that was broken?
I want to say it was mouse, but I don't remember, to be honest.
I mean, either way, that's kind of crazy. I mean, LCS injuries like that is actually from esports soccer that I helped create. Vulcan like rolled his ankle very bad and like had a high ankle sprain, played a couple of matches on like crutches and stuff. And then obviously the way back in the day, the double lift dunking on the rim and cutting his hand open and not being able to play. Those are the two that I can think of. But
there were a plethora of injuries in the Overwatch League. Some of them which were like made public there was an injury, but not the reason. There were a few Overwatch League injuries that were not made public, where a player just was out for a few days, and like they had a replacement and it mysteriously wasn't talked about. I would say like 90% of the injuries that happened during that time were because of those bird scooters. The ones like the rental ones.
Yeah.
Players would just like go out to the bar and like try to take one of those back, or like would just be just driving them around because it's like, oh, it's so cool, we have these scooter things, and then just like crash on them for no reason and land on their hands, like, and then like they can't play properly. So stuff happens like in esports, shit happens where you're just gonna You're just gonna not be able to use your hands properly. It's Yukal fell out of his seat. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, that did happen this week. He
may have
played
injured
from
his
a seated
tailbone.
position.
I don't
That
know.
was that was good.
Stuff like that does happen. I mentioned on the broadcast very briefly, Gumiho had in StarCraft 2. You can actually just look up like Gumiho booth collapse or something like that on YouTube. He was a StarCraft 2 pro, and the part of the booth like fell on his head while he was playing, and he just like stops microing, and you could see in the player cam like something's like on his head, and he's going.
Oh my gosh.
He didn't really end up getting injured, and he ended up playing afterward and winning the game, if I remember correctly. But players can get injured in esports. It's rare, but it can happen.
It's not that cool. It would have been cool if Duro came out. It was a flu game and he won, but wasn't the case. Speaking of Duro, his former team, BNK FearX, BFX, get your acronym right. They were an okay team last split, and Moose 2320 reminds us last summer BNK FearX did all those full dive drafts and started beating good teams and winning a lot into a playoff berth, and then didn't do the full dive thing. But BNK did find an identity last year. It looked crazy scary. He brings that up because they look terrible right now, and we brought up in that last show that Ryu and the other coach are just they acknowledged it in our LCK notes that their drafts have been poor. They haven't set up their team for success, and it would be very embarrassing if they got 10th place and then they got 10th place and didn't get a single win in the split. So, Moose, an optimistic look at our fellow Foxes here. Wolf, what do you make of it?
I mean, I think sometimes like that, that sort of identity can be found, and like you can recover, but I'm not optimistic yet. I think we have to wait and see what they do during the offseason and what the first few weeks of LCK regular season look like before we can be hopeful. But yeah, I do agree. Like that's true. Like that did happen last year. And then they like for some reason stopped doing it and then lost. And it's strange, but Ryu sometimes gives his players super weird drafts. We don't understand it. I'm not sometimes sure if he understands it, but I'm hoping they can get it together because I just want all teams to be like I want the floor to be higher. Obviously, one team's going to be the worst, but you don't have to be the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No win worst. And then finally, we've got Oleg 9130 saying the T1 comment. It's coming. Here we go.
Oh,
you ready?
let me know. Yeah, I'm ready.
This one's a long one, but it brings up like a narrative point. Yeah, the narrative becomes like this. Don't get me wrong, Guma is a good and consistent player, but Smash is better with the style and aggressiveness. Guma can't carry the team and has champ issues. Everyone said, this is great for T1. Guma, like Faker, also get benched, blah, blah, blah. Ignore that Faker and Easy Hoon said the sub causes some mental health issues. That was, I think, about the example previously. The only one that gets hurt in the sub thing is Guma. Even the two-time world champion has to prove himself all over again. But who cares? Guma gets hated and underestimated. That's how he spelled it. Imagine after a bad match, Ruler/Viper, ADCs for instance, gets benched for data collection. The vibe would be different. 3 matches is not long enough to judge that Smash is the future of T1. The Guma cannot carry the team, or that Guma cannot carry the team or doesn't fit the current T1 style. His argument, the sample size is too small compared to the multiple world champions championships that Guma has won. What do you think?
I think he's underestimating maybe he's overestimating Guma's impact on the team so far because like you mentioned comparing it to Ruler or Viper, like if Ruler or Viper was in the same situation, the reaction would be different. I think right now for me, for Ruler, I wouldn't feel that strongly because we've only seen a few games and he was playing in LPL obviously until very recently and has had some weird games. Like he's had some amazing games, but he's had some games where his decision making is a little bit off, like his teleport in, for example. That's the most famed Ruler mistake so far, where he TP'd in with his res and then just died. It's whatever, but if I compare Guma and Viper, it's been very clear, I think, to most people who've been watching the games I think this is very clear, and I'm sorry to say this to people, and Guma is solid and blah blah blah. We do say that, like, yeah, it was good, and that's true. And you mentioned that we say that, but Viper's impact individually as a late game carry, some of his mid game plays, and some of the clutches he's had has been way higher than Guma. It just has. Like, Viper has had way higher highs than Guma. There have been some lows for Viper for sure. But like, he's the defending LCK champion, played really well into Guma specifically in their direct matchup when they faced off in the lower bracket finals. So if Viper was suddenly subbed out, I think people would be really confused because he's such a huge integral part of the roster. Whereas for Guma, I feel like he's one of the most slottable parts on T1. Outside of like Doran, but it's new for Doran's new to this roster, right? So like, we don't know. But like, Oner has been a huge consistent fixture. You don't take out Faker, carry a support pool, and his dominant bottom lanes is what got T1 the success that they had. And Guma played really well when he was set up, and he played with the team incredibly well. Like, he was a good part of this roster. But now that Doran's there, like, I think it was good to give it a try. And I'm not saying that like we know for sure that there's enough data so like some of what you said is true, but at the same time, like, to compare him to Viper, for example, and to say like, oh, we would all be like up in arms if Viper was, but I think we would, because Viper is the guy. Like, he's the late game carry that Guma sometimes is, but sometimes it's also Faker, but sometimes it was also Zeus, but sometimes it's also because Oner dominated the early game, but sometimes it's because Keria has an insane champion pool and he dominated the lane with Guma in a 2v2, not Guma dominating the lane, but it was actually a 2v2 dominance. Whereas Viper is like, if you take him out of that team, the whole Hanwha team collapses. Like, they can't function without him. So yeah. I think it's a very different thing. With Ruler, like, you know, if you ask me that, like, if we go back to when Ruler was playing in the LCK for a long time before he went to JDG, I would say he's the same kind of thing. Like, he's super integral part of the roster. Like, we would be losing our minds if he was taken out because it's so important for him to be part of that team. Not as much as Viper, but I would say yes. But Guma, on the other hand, felt very consistent but not clutch, and Smash has been a lot more clutch. We've talked about this on the show before, but yeah.
I think it's just also in terms of, we didn't talk about it like in terms of like, oh, they're doing this and making this decision on terms of sample size. I think that's the benefit of being T1, the organization. Like, you are making decisions this early on to win championships. And maybe by doing this, you know, Guma doesn't want to re-sign next year. But if you put Guma back in, he's not going to into games. You know, like, you are making this move to think about the future, prep the future and whatnot. And maybe you are saying that we are right. Smash is the future. And maybe the future is next year. But you would not know and have a better idea than putting him in this LCK Cup tournament that doesn't have stats that carry over to if you make MSI, if you make Worlds, to the record books. Like, it doesn't.
I want to talk about that actually really quick for a second, because I've seen a lot of weird comments about this, and we saw some weird video before work of someone who was saying the LCK isn't taking the LCK Cup seriously. I've seen a lot of people say that, like, the LCK stats aren't being tracked and it doesn't matter. So, like, players can do anything. LCK just said there's no stats. And so you can play anything. It doesn't matter. You could lose everything. It won't even affect your career. So that's why T1 put Smash in, because it doesn't even affect their rec. Guys, the LCK Cup is a separate tournament from the LCK. Mm-hmm. I feel like people don't know this. I'm telling people now. They both have LCK in it. And yes, LCK Cup doesn't have a logo. It's a big whiff by LCK, to be honest. And I hope that they have one for next year, because it's very silly. There's no logo. But it is a separate tournament. It does not have a prize pool. It is a qualifier for first stand. And it's a really exciting way to find out, like, how good all these teams are, et cetera, get some new players some exposure, get them some stage time, etc. Fearless draft, fun stuff. But because it's Fearless Draft, because it's a different format, because it doesn't have round robins like the LCK does, because it's a 2-group format, you don't track stats the same way as you do LCK.
Yeah.
Is it LazyField the first LCK player who's not from Korea? No, because it's not the LCK. It's the LCK Cup. It's not the LCK. And, like, I feel like people don't, the branding on this has been weird and the communication is weird, but people don't understand that this is not the LCK. So therefore these stats don't track over. Now when we do LCK Cup next year, LCK Cup stats will all be there. And the stats from LCK Cup will be used in the LCK when we go into like week 1, week 2, week 3. A lot of those stats will be referenced. Like, oh, his 2025 stats are this. Like, he played in LCK Cup and played this champion this many times. Like, the stats are all there. It's not just like LCK said the stats don't matter because Lazy Field is Vietnamese and they just decided, like, well, the LCK Cup is weird. We don't track that. It was just a different tournament. So, yes, he's the first Vietnamese player to play in the LCK Cup and to play in a Korean domestic tournament. And it's a really big deal, by the way, still. But, like, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, they just don't track anything. That's just not true. And I've been seeing this comment a lot more recently. I don't know why people are suddenly talking about it so much.
Because teams are getting eliminated. That's why. I mean, look, you could just change the name of the tournament to, like, I don't know, because it's going to first stand, you could name it to the Korean Friendship Entry Tournament, or the KFE tournament, you could
Korean
just
first steps to the first stand.
The Korean first stand entry. Yeah, there we go. All right, tournament.
Battle Royale for first stand. And
then they'd be like, why are those stats in the LCK?
Why don't we just call it the Squid Game tournament? I'm sure that would go over well.
I hope that one day, especially here in Korea, because this is like, or maybe just Korea in China, but like in Korea, they did like soccer, or in football, sorry, friends from around the world. They do open tournaments and qualifiers literally start the year before. And you start at step 1 or like random baby teams, and then step 2 are like collegiate teams, and then step 3 are the tier 3 academy teams from LCK. Step 4 is the challenger teams. Step 5 are the LCK teams, and then there's maybe like however many required, so it'd be 5 rounds after that. And it's just a tournament that happens throughout the year, and then it literally allows you to have the minnows play against the big teams. That would be super fun. I would love a tournament like that, but those stats also wouldn't carry over to the LCK. So
I just want to see some of the middle to bottom LCK teams play against top teams from the other regions. That's what I want. That's what I want to have. I want to happen after Worlds. Like, everybody's like, tired from Worlds or whatever. Contracts are about to expire. Players are just sitting around waiting for their, they're doing some negotiations, even though they're not supposed to, like, before the contracts are up. And then I want that time to be like Bro versus
Mad Lions.
Any NA or EU team. I want to see that. I want to see like BNK DRX take on some of the best North American guys. Because I think NA would actually do better than people think in a lot of these matchups. But if they don't, it would be really funny.
Well, it's funny that you say that. BNK DRX did take on Cloud9 and first seed over in LTA North, 100 Thieves. And guess who they beat? They beat 100 Thieves. So there you go. BNK DRX better than North America. All right. Thank you for the comments as per usual. Y'all did great making sure those comments were not stinky. And if you want to make sure that you aren't stinky, you need to check out our friends over at Mando. We've talked about Mando for a while with their whole body deodorant, which was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, and it's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. I actually put that to the test yesterday. Yesterday, your boy went to the gym, and I have I had a photo shoot after the gym. Did not have time to go back home and change, so I took a shower and used my Mando products. But then also to slap on, I forgot a shirt. That's because there's a photo shoot. They're like, hey, just bring pants. I forgot a shirt. So I used our Mando wipes to wipe down the shirt, make sure it wasn't stinky. That thing smelled so good. And again, those aren't the only products they have. They have the solid stick deodorant, the solid deodorant stick formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. The spray deodorant, aluminum free and ideal for hard to reach places. And again, it is clinically proven to control odor better than shower with soap alone, which is why I did the double in my own daily life. Wolf, how have you been utilizing Mando in your daily life?
I just use it after I go to the gym, sometimes before I go out. And a lot of the time, my sleep schedule gets a little bit weird during the off season, or even sometimes during these like weird little mini breaks we have between playoff days and stuff. Where like I showered at night and then like the next day it's like getting a little bit. So in the morning I'm pretty fresh, but it's like getting a little bit later. But then suddenly I need to go out to dinner. And I'm like, I just, I'm not gonna be out for that long. Mando's got you covered. You know, you don't have to go and run and jump in the shower a second time. You just slap some of that deodorant on, then you're fine because it gets all the odor out. So I like that. There's so many different types of deodorant that you can use, so you're kind of covered in every situation. You mentioned the utility of the wipes. There's normal stick deodorant. There's also cream. So I like that versatility that I have, so I can kind of make sure that wherever I'm scared I'm stinky, it's gonna be sorted out.
That's right. The pits, the balls, the thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks. You should only have both of belly button and butt crack. And feet. Again, stinky feet is terrible. Terrible. Mando's got you covered. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with the solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, which are the ones that I used, and free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 5% off a starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to 40% off your starter pack using the code Monte Wolf at shopmando.com. That is SHOPMANDO.com. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you using the code Monte Wolf at shopmando.com. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Thanks to our friends over at Mando. And anytime I get to shout out the sponsors that I use in my daily life, I love that because I'm not sending you somewhere that I don't believe in or don't use. I know money can be tight right now. I know, depending on inflation might be going up or all that stuff. Free shipping and products that work. Thanks to our friends over at Mando. All right. With that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of last week, which is the bracket, Wolf. It was not good. This isn't a battle of picking the best series. It's more of a battle of which one was the worst series. Unfortunately, every now and then the LCK kind of gets that, and with this format, the hope was the gaps between the teams won't be too big, so we'll get some competitive series. We didn't really get that, man. We got like, all right, who throws the first punch? All right, this team is weaker and more fragile. They're knocked on out. It was a bunch of 2-0s with a 3-1 at the very end of the week. With DRX.
So where do you want to start? We want to talk about Bro getting eliminated by Nongshim.
No, not really. I mean, I think Nongshim looked good. Bro, Hambak. It was the first time where I was like, oh no, a fellow brother is our weak link. We're not the weak link.
It's so
easy. It was the weak link.
It's so true though, because he just really didn't have a great series at all. And he was trying to make plays, and I don't know, bro kind of like what's the word for this? There was a bit of a death rattle, The bro was like, we're losing, better try to all in this fight even further. Like, wait, no. You can't win these fights anymore. You're super far behind. You actually just have to do the side lane and hope they make a mistake thing in this point. But they just kind of kept tunneling. And Nongshim, to be fair, like really looked good at the end of the group battle stage, and then came in pretty revitalized in this match as well. And Lehens is having a lot of fun with his Shens, his Elises and stuff. And Nongshim just looked like a pretty decent team right now, but pretty decent team didn't seem like beating Bro, who beat GenG, who also looked robust and had great early games. And I think most people, even though we didn't do official predictions, most people were pretty heavily thinking that Bro was going to win, and they really just dropped the ball. But then Nongshim looked really good, right? So then, like, okay, cool. And before we talk about the DNF, they were like advanced. Will it be interesting against T1? Like a lot of people like maybe.
They've made it squirrely for T1 before. They beat them last split with the upset.
Yeah, and then there were just like a lot of discussions about Faker's champion pool right now with Fisher's Galio in the mix. Like, is Galio going to be high prio? Like, will Carrier try to pick away the Shen? what's gonna happen? And then Nongshim just kind of did some weird drafts, and T1 just completely outclassed them. We were talking like 4,000 gold lead at 10 minutes or something like that. Like it was by far the biggest stomp of many stomps we had in this tournament, and T1 looked insanely clean. Like it was one of those matches where like, yeah, T1 2-0 Nongshim, but the way they did it was what really made you impressed. Like the constant rotations, the correct lane assignments, getting the turret plates. It felt like old T1 with the Guma carry a kill lane. Zeus is winning top lane and Faker's roaming because he has prio, and like you're just winning on all three lanes. But it was just like objective wins, clean macro. Dorn absorbs the pressure correctly when he needs to, and they just plow over the turrets. And like this was just terrifying, to be honest. For Hanwha Life now, I imagine, since they will be facing them, of course, in the first round of playoffs, they're probably going, our series wasn't quite as clean against DRX, by the way.
I think that Nongshim series for T1, the best way I can describe it is if you are playing with your friend who is way better than you, and you are in Smurf queue, and T1 just unloaded on Nongshim and was like, we are in the losing group, but we're the number one team, and we are showing you that we are first of Group Baron, and you are last of Group Elder, and that gap can't be any larger. It was embarrassing and tough to watch if you are a T1 hater, and it was so reinvigorating, or a Guma lover, and it was so reinvigorating if you're trusting this new DOFSK roster. Like they looked amazing. They looked amazing. Let's go to the. Do you want to finish the Nongshim part, or do you want to go to the other side of the bracket with Hanwha and DNF?
Let's go to the other side first. DNF just. I was, man.
Oh my god!
I mentioned on this show, like we talked about it. I've talked about. I feel like they're like a tattoo I got. I can't remember. Like I can't remember that. I can't get over that I got it, and I have like a lot of regret or something because I told everyone at the beginning of the season, no, I see some moves, like some decision making here is really good. Like I think they're pretty smart. Like their drafting is a little bit weird. I don't really like it, but they still win because they're really creative. Their early game pathings are good. And then I don't know, I got into like week 2, halfway through week 2, and I was like, nah, man, never mind. Like this team is not it. Like I like took down my DNF posters off the wall and like
scrub out with Mando the tattoo.
Yeah. I like changed my Twitter profile picture from Berserker.
Oh no, no, not the profile picture change.
Yeah, no, I changed it from Berserker to Smash, you know, and I was like, yeah, this is the new T1 rookie that's coming up that I really love. Instead, no, I don't know, dGon. Like DNF looked really rough, man. And it's like not good drafting, and it's not good gameplay, and the team also just weirdly looks like unprepared. Not just like going into these series, but also into a lot of the objective fights and stuff. Like they just don't look like they have an idea about where they're supposed to enter. And I think a big story for me for a lot of this tournament is like, or the play-in so far, right? And we'll talk about what happens in playoffs, but like for this part of the tournament, is there's just such a huge gap in decision making between the best teams. And like even Nongshim's decision making was pretty fast a lot of the time, even if it was like incorrect. At least they were like, all right, this is our call most of the time. DRX, DNF, bro, all over the place. Like two people are pushing mid, the rest of the team is engaging. Like Andil is like, I'm going in. I'm like, where are you going, bro? Like what's going on? And like you watch T1 play, and to a lesser extent Hanwha, but T1 specifically, and like they're all moving as a unit. There's like no hesitation. Smash barely on this roster, it doesn't matter. He's going exactly where he needs to be. He's making the clutch play. He's calming with his team. He's like, I see that guy. I think I kill him. He kills him. They push. They get the turret. You know what I mean? And I see DNF floundering there. The same way that I see DRX flounder if we move forward to like the Hanwha series, and they had big leads. Like DRX could have won that first game. The second game felt like they probably couldn't have won it ever, but like they kept winning team fights despite being like 10,000 gold behind. And I was like, Hanwha, man, like just get it together, dude. It just the team doesn't know how to use its advantages. The drafts were also very suspect. Like the game 2 draft was really not it for me in terms of what it did for them in the lane setups. And Hanwha, like the thing about that I said on the broadcast, and that I feel like I really feel like I can take away from this series. We all knew Hanwha was going to win, right? We all knew that. Like DRX should not beat Hanwha. If they do, it's a disaster. But they kind of almost did in the first game, and then the second game wasn't clean. And if you compare like the way T1 just took Nongshim apart, like they just took them apart like they were an old Lego toy and just threw the Legos across the room like one by one.
Almost, Wolf. You mean they took them apart like a package of ramen that hadn't been cooked yet? You almost had it, man. You went Legos. It was almost the same thing.
Broke it, in half, and then broke it into quarters, and then like smashed it, and then opened it up and poured like the ramen powder into the bag and shook it, and then started eating them and cracked a beer. Like it's really delicious. Like you should try it at home if you haven't ever tried that. That's a thing. We do that in Korea, by the way. We call it like we call it like fresh ramen or sang ramen. I
thought the cracking the beer opening the door, spending time with the wife. That's just called being Wolf. That's what I thought you were going with. Man.
I mean, seriously though, like break it up, put the powder in, close it, shake it, and then eat the pieces. It's solid, man. Anyway, you look at that, and then you look at Hanwha Life, and I don't know how to make this analogy with Hanwha and DRX, but I don't know. It was like
it's cold Budajige that your mom used to make, but your mom didn't make it, so it should be good. It reminds you of something good, and you're like, I don't know, like, was it good that I had this old thing that reminds me of something that's way better? But at least I had it, and I'm satiated, and it, like, all right, I tried. I don't think that one works too much. But
I don't know. I had like this weird idea in my head where I was like, if you were to 1v1, like, everyone's seen like one of those cats that's like doesn't like strangers, right? And like sometimes there's like the angry cat that's like and like swinging its things, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to be near that cat. Like you find out real quick when you visit your friend, you're like, oh, is she friendly? And your friend's like, oh, she doesn't really like strangers, and you're like, okay. And you just try to pet her, and she's like, swats, and you're like, oh, okay, I see. It's like if Hanwha had to beat, like Hanwha's like that person, like I could beat this cat in a 1v1, like. I'm a huge person, like I'm a human. It's just a cat, but like the cat keeps like swiping back, and Hanwha's like, no, like I'll put this cat down. Like I'm gonna fight this cat. And he like gets like a stick, and the cat like still wins for some reason. Like hits his arm, even though he's got like a long staff. And eventually, like Hanwha wins. The cat has to run away and retreat and hide under the bed. But like they just kept getting slapped, man. Like they just kept getting slapped. I'm like, this is embarrassing, dude. Like you have a huge advantage. You are the stronger team. You got Viper on your roster. You got Zeka. You guys won the offseason. And yet, like, you can't out-team fight DRX, who had Teddy in barely, like, because he was sick for a really long time, wasn't even scrimming. Like, come on, Hanwha. Get it together. You think you're going to beat T1 in that first round? I don't think anybody thinks that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is. I'm glad that instead of going with another food analogy, you went with, like, animal abuse there, Wolf. Great stuff.
Well, it's not animal abuse. It's just the concept of, like, if you try to fight a cat, like, it's going to swat you, and you're like, well, I don't know.
Andrew, do you think about fighting a cat? I have to ask the producer. Do you think about fighting cats?
I'm just raising my voice to move away from this, dGon. I'm raising my voice. It means we're moving on.
All right, it's time to move on. All right, so
animal abuser,
Hanwha, you're definitely not, but you thought about it as the example. So
I'm just thinking about how powerful cats can be in that kind of situation. Like, even though you're the bigger person, like they're gonna get you, man. You got to respect that they're faster. Than you.
All right, chat. You can help us out here in the comments. Like, I'm not a cat owner, so if you are a cat owner, does this analogy make sense to you?
No, it's like
I'm sure it does.
You've never been to a friend's house where the cat just gets at you.
It's a cat. That's the example. Why would we just use like? I don't know, like an animal that, if we're gonna use an animal, why wouldn't you use an animal that is actually hunted, like a spider?
I don't know.
Or
It could be anything. Like I don't. It could
domesticated
be like a boar or something that you're
yeah, a
hunting.
boar. A
Okay, and
boar.
it's gonna. I mean, but that's like actually really dangerous. Like I mean, I guess
That's why
maybe
you
for
can't
Hanwha
use the
Life
boar.
esports.
That's why I said a spider.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe Hanwha Life
A
could have
cockroach.
died to the boar. To be honest.
Cricket. All right. We went off. I brought us off the rails. You know, the sadder part is, I guess, is that this then led to DRX and Nongshim. Hanwha and T1, they took care of business. One professionally, the other one after getting slapped a couple times by something that has claws. Nongshim and DRX do battle. Our first best of 5 in the LCK Cup and in all of Korea, top tier pro play. That was a stretch, but whatever. It was fun. Like, it was fun to get down to 40 bans. Or I guess it was technically 50 bans, right? You have
in the final game.
Yeah, it's the 10 bans that happened that game, the 30 champs that already played, and then you pick your 10 champs there. We were going deep in the pool, and I think the teams that think about these wonky ass combos are the ones that are going to win. And I don't know if I like that or not, Wolf. Like, if it ends up being, all right, let's get a comp that's full of circles and CC and they don't get to play, or like a 2 champ combo where they don't get to play, you know, I guess at high level would be like the Renekton Nidalee like combo, but even
or like
more cheesy.
Galio or like
Yeah.
Shen Galio, you know, I mean that now that's kind of known, like Nongshim kind of revealed it. So, and everybody knew about it before, but I think had forgotten about it for a while, and now it's like, oh, okay, well that's probably not going to make it.
You could do like Twitch Nocturne, like just stupid stuff like that. It could work.
It could
like
work.
It could work.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one myself, but it could work.
Right.
I think this is the fearless debate that like happens every day on Reddit, and like we've talked about it a lot, where it's like, oh, do you want to see the best that these players have to offer on the champs that they've really practiced, that they're really good at, and the strategic depth that comes with knowing that in a smaller pool of meta champions, you could take one away and then have this like one niche pick that works with it, maybe that nobody uses, or you could just get out of the S and A tier champions a comp that really makes sense, that you know how to pilot, that you know how to play side lanes with. Or do we just go completely down the rabbit hole and things get weird and people don't know how to play their champions or their comps at all? Because when I was watching that last game, and you know this because you and I were on the show together.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up right now to make sure. Wadid was with me as well on this.
Oh my god, Wadid
on the Nongshim side.
Aneurysm.
On the Nongshim side, who won, by the way, with this comp, they won with Gnar into Camille, by the way. Poppy jungle, Taliyah, Aphelios, Rel. On the other team actually has Camille Sejuani versus Gnar, so should crush it. UCal is playing Orianna into the Taliyah, which is not necessarily a winning matchup, but you can get pressure there. And then they have the scaling Ornn and Senna, which eventually, of course, outranges the incredibly low range Aphelios. How do you set up picks with the Taliyah in this composition when there's no other real setup for you? Like the Rel could hit somebody, but has to go in full committal to set up your shove. It could be a Poppy into the wall, again, full committal, or a Gnar that like has to be with Mega Gnar. I guess if Aphelios could gravitum somebody and then you got your chance, but like this comp doesn't really have any synergy. On the other side, you have a lot, right? You have a lot of scaling. It's not a perfect composition, but it's like a great game 4 fearless draft, I felt like. But DRX didn't know what to do with it. Put their Ornn into a Gnar in the top lane matchup, which is known to be a great response to Ornn, by the way. Range, you have hyperprocs, you chip away at him, and then just left the Sejuani to do, or not the Sejuani, sorry, the Senna to do nothing, and then let Rich get collapsed on and never gave him any resources. They never bailed out the Ornn or gave Rich any opportunity to play the game. So the Camille that's super good into the Gnar, they didn't figure out the lane swap. They didn't know how to handle it. And in this meta, you have to, if you're playing Senna, you got to know how to deal with that. You got to know how to like just say, Sponge, you're not farming for a minute because we're gonna go bail some people out because we got to get these lane assignments the right way. They didn't know how to play it, and so even when a team has like a cool idea, it can just completely fall flat because the other team was just smarter with their bad comp. Like Nongshim were just smarter. They knew what to do. They knew how to punish. So that's the Legend's diff, I think, right? Like the veteran voice on the team that got them through that one. This is why I like that Fearless is contained in this tournament, because you get to have some goofy moments, you get to have a lot of fun. Sometimes you see some new stuff. I feel like for some people, to be honest, the most fun part of Fearless is saying that Fearless exists and that like we see so many new. We don't really see that many new ones. It's just like a little bit worse comps with the champs that were meta, anyways. Like of these champions, Aphelios is like the most unique and different than Senna, Ornn, and Orianna, and then the rest are all like still relevant and played all the time. So I'm just saying, like I like that it's a concept. I like the teams that can improve through it and like maybe learn and utilize more stuff and practice more stuff. But give me the Casante's banned or played every game. Yeah, I'm okay with it because teams are really practicing that, are really mastered, but they've really mastered those champions and how to play around them. So I like both aspects of this. But to go back to what you originally said, like, is this what people are saying that it is? Like, it's so fun. We see so many more new things. Not necessarily. We sometimes see new things, but it's really just all the good champions that players are good at, but just the composition doesn't make sense. And that's kind of where we're at. Or it's like the weird combo stuff you mentioned.
So I've got a slightly different take here. I think this is the first best of 5 that we saw. They are it was piloted by one of our worst teams in form recently, and a team that isn't smart but is decisive. Like you said earlier, that's Nongshim. They listen to Brother Lehend's. Lehend said something after game 2. They had like the mic check, or the game 3, the second win for Nongshim. They had the mic check up, and he was like, "See, listen to your young," and everyone's like, "Yeah, well, listen to young." You know, Lehend's was getting a little tilted when he was playing Blitzcrank and just telling everyone to listen. And I think that for other regions, Fearless is going to be great. It is great because like when you get to game 4 and game 5, if they get there, because I don't think many regions, like obviously they had Fearless best of 1s in Europe and it was a meme, and NA hasn't done best of 5s yet. But I think in Asia, Fearless best of 5 isn't good until you get to the better teams. I am excited to see what a Hanwha, a T1, very much what Dplus can cook, because they're the only ones that cooked in the best of 3 Fearless. And maybe GenG. I'm not 100% sure about GenG. I they should be good, but Chovy's kind of off form right now. But that seems fun because what you get otherwise is what happened in DRX and Nongshim, where they just fuck up the lane swaps and the lane assignments, and then the game's over. Yeah. So I think there are more pocket pick players in the West than there are in the East, and I think the creativity and ability to figure it out is much higher in those higher tier teams than not. Like, you know, we like with DRX and with Nongshim. So
yeah, I also think Korea specifically has been a region where they keep the pool small, they iterate, they master, rather than leaning into creativity. Like, I feel like North America, for example, would be much more adaptable to a Fearless change because of how they've drafted in the past and how players have been like more willing to be experimental. And so as a region as a whole, I think Korea gets hit the hardest with their bottom teams the fastest. Like, you find out who really hasn't like experimented or expanded because they're just trying to emulate the top teams so hard and work on those champion pools and work on like what Chovy's playing, what Faker's playing, what Zeus is playing. That they haven't really leaned into themselves and like what a Fearless draft could look like yet. So I think maybe next year things will look better too, and teams will have learned a lot from this. A lot of coaches will have learned, because obviously the rosters won't be the same, but a lot of coaches will have learned, hey, I'm going to approach how we prepare for this tournament differently next year. And I do agree with you that T1, GenG, Dplus, these teams, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can bring to the table, because T1 has had some pretty good drafts. Faker's champion pool is immense, right? This tournament so far like hasn't really showcased it that much, but he hasn't had to. But maybe if they end up going to some 5-gamers, like we'll get to see some cool drafts out of them. And I do trust them more, like you said.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was kind of the recap of the play-in stage, the teams that made it through, the teams that didn't. And we'll do a look towards playoffs, but not after reminding you about our friends over at Turtle Beach. Valentine's Day coming on up. And we know that you Giga Chads out there need to take care of the gifting, but don't worry about it. We got you covered here with Turtle Beach. Turtle Beach has their new Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset, which picks up so much crystal clear sound. It's basically cheating, which you would never do on your partner. But, if your partner wanted to do that in game, get you covered. Even if snowblowers or anything is going on outside, you hear every footstep, every reload, and every enemy sneaking up on you like they're snopping through your living room and tap dancing with their shoes. The Turtle Beach headsets are so comfortable, you'll feel like you're wearing a marshmallow cloud pillow on your head. And again, boom, using the product right here. And best of all, the Stealth 700 has the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between your consoles, PC with a click of a button. And it gets even better. While connected to your console, the Stealth 700 can connect to your phone for music streaming or taking calls all at the same time. And for a limited time, you can get 10% off your entire order with code Monte Wolf at turtlebeach.com. Don't miss out, and don't forget the Valentine's Day gift, and get him the gift of ears and hearing with Turtle Beach using the code Monte Wolf for 10% off. It has been great. Actually, I built a PC for my significant other, and they obviously will be using Turtle Beach as part of their headset. Wolf, how much?
I feel like the first thing I want to say, I want to do the little disclaimer audio voice, like the voice talks really fast and be like, just having really clear audio doesn't mean you're cheating.
It's almost like you're cheating, and if you wanted to cheat, you can do it in game. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's good quality. The multiple audio thing. I mean, we've talked about this on the show many times because these are one of our best partners, obviously, and the multiple audio sources coming into the headset is like the coolest thing for me. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. But one thing I haven't really talked too much about them is that they don't really give you bad headset hair as well compared to a lot of headsets I've used, and they also, you can wear them for a long time and they don't, everyone's had headsets where like your ears start hurting or like your hair is getting pulled too much. Like sometimes this happens with the one I'm wearing right now, but that doesn't happen in my experience with the Turtle Beach. I also find that you could use them while you're working out really well, and like they just don't bother you, even though it's a relatively large headset. Like it's really chill, so I love that about them.
Yeah. Again, if you want to go ahead and level up your hearing game, make sure to head on over to turtlebeach.com and use the code MonteWolf for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com using the code MonteWolf. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. Let's move forward here, Wolf, as we've got playoffs. Those teams that we said we want to see, we finally get to see them, and KT. Sorry, KT fans. Man, that could have been bro, dude. It's Nongshim there. That could have been bro. God damn it, Hambach. Like I said that so many times during that day. It was like, what are you doing, Hambach? Oh, like, don't be afraid. They're not going to terminate your contract. I promise.
It
Well.
was not great.
It was not great. But yeah, let's do it. Nongshim KT. So refresh our memory on KT because we've already done the Nongshim refresher from this week.
So KT is very similarly to DRX in that they have a mid laner who is their whole team, and what the mid laner gets done is basically determining whether they win or lose. BDD is the guy. Like Yukao was the guy until he fell out of the chair and lost his memories again. But BDD and Cuz are going to be the ones who have to get it done in this series if they're going to beat Nongshim. If BDD underperforms or if Cuz underperforms, I feel like Nongshim absolutely can win this series. Because they're kind of hit their stride right now. It's a good meta for Lehens. Although like Lehens has been a little bit inconsistent. I feel like when they're listening to him, they look good. And Perfect, I don't really know. Like I'm not sold on how he's playing so far. And I think Duckdom away have looked really out of sorts. Like KT is a super weird team for me because I always look at them and I'm like, oh man, right now, like I feel like 3/5 of your team belong in 8th place, but then cousin BDD belong in like 4th place at worst, you know? Like
like
I
that's
almost
the
feel like
fun
they're
part about this
trapped on
series.
this team. I'm like they could do so much better anywhere else. And so
But
I
that's
don't
the fun part about this series, man. Like if you go up and down that like 1v1, like each lane, all after, especially after playing, you're like, is Kingen better than Perfect? Is is Lehens better than Wei? Like we've seen some wrong Wei moments here. Like they could find an angle here.
Yeah, no, I'm for sure. Geo versus Duckdom, I'm like, maybe we just look the other way. We don't have this conversation, but I don't know. I feel like this series is gonna get down and dirty. It's gonna be potentially 4 or 5 games. I don't think it'll be clean, but I do think BDD and Cuz will be the difference makers if KT wins. And I haven't made my official prediction yet. This will be played in 2 days' time at the time of this recording. I I really don't know what to do in terms of predictions. Like I might just flip a coin. That's what you do with KT sometimes.
With KT, yeah.
But I don't feel that strongly about this because I think whoever wins here will be chosen by Dplus and will lose to Dplus. On the other side of the bracket, though, I think we clearly have a favorite. I think we have a very clear favorite, and it's T1. I just don't. Yeah. I think if you predict Hanwha to win this, like I'm gonna need like a 45-minute YouTube video with a clickbait thumbnail, like why T1 will actually lose to Hanwha. Like,
oh boy,
I need like the whole story because Hanwha looked so rough against DRX. Their team fighting was poor. Their macro was like better than DRX's, but what does that even mean? Like, is that even we set the bar pretty low? And T1 have the full package. They have the clutch factor of Smash. They have Doran's weak siding, his utility, Faker, small champion pool at the moment in terms of what he's playing, but like looks pretty good. His Victor is insane. He's undefeated on it. That's kind of a niche pick that no one else is really playing right now, but Faker keeps picking up. It's getting banned against him.
Yep.
Their early game stats are out of control. Like out of control. Like, and 4,000 gold at 10 that they got in that last series against Nongshim. Like those stats are going to be up. I guarantee you they're going to be like in the points of the match. Like you will see these stats again, and they will be even bigger than they were before. Hanwha's team fighting is just so not clean. Like it's just so messy. I kind of want to say like not even 3-1. I kind of want to say 3-0. Like that's where I'm at for this one. I just don't see Hanwha winning this.
Yeah. It feels like Hanwha played slow against an opponent that played slow, whereas T1 in their tune-up series, they set the pace against a team that couldn't keep up. But Nongshim did. I think that was the takeaway from the T1 series for Nongshim compared to the DRX, the Hanwha Life series for DRX. It was like DRX had ideas, but they couldn't execute. Nongshim had hands, but they didn't have brains. And when you compare to how much Hanwha Life struggled against that, it was just disappointing. And to only be able to get a best one single elimination, best of 5 between these two teams, with all the drama, all the talk, the fan bases, the organizations, the villainization of the agents, like we're only getting one best of 1 here is like a little bit of a bummer, man. Like I just think it's a bummer.
Even one best of 5.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
one best of 5.
We don't do best of ones in LCK. I told you
Yeah,
this
yeah.
at the end of the show.
I
the other
know.
day.
I'm sorry. Please don't
No.
fire me.
Hey, you gave me shit for the cat fight reference thing, so I just gotta fire back where I can. Though, I think that the matchup itself is like really exciting because Doran versus Zeus. The thing is, if you guys think back to all the big best of 5s where Doran faced off against Zeus, Doran won most of the big ones. Like, it's a good matchup for Doran. So, even though I specifically on this show and on other shows and 2 people in real life told, like, when people asked me my opinion, was so adamant that this is a way better trade for Hanwha than it is for T1 because T1 have Doran. It doesn't make sense for their team. It doesn't make sense for how they play through Karyaguma. And Doran was not doing as well on Hanwha as he did on GenG. Like, he was kind of a liability for this team. I felt like it was a huge upgrade, a huge win for Hanwha, huge loss for T1. In the matchup between them directly, Doran has kind of been the kryptonite for Zeus, and T1 changed their playstyle really quickly. So I think it'll be fun though if Zeus does end up crushing Doran, and like if Hanwha do upset and win, what it means for, and like how Hanwha gets to, like, you know, do whatever they want. If they want to do some subtle poke the bear of the T1 fans on social media, whatever they want to do, there's going to be some drama. It's going to be fun. There will be trucks if T1 lose 100%, especially if Zeus carries like, look what you did. You let them go. You let him go. And Hanwha beat us with our old player. But like,
does that even include Smash and Guma? The Smash and Guma drama?
I mean, though there could be some of that. I mean, maybe Guma gets subbed in the series, probably not, but it would be really interesting too if Zeus just gets bopped by Doran and Smash plays well and they crush Hanwha, and then the comments about Zeus are just completely over. Like, T1 just stops being like, I can't believe, they're like, oh no, it was the right call. Yeah, Doran's great. He's one of us now. Because like I feel like overall the anger about Zeus going to Hanwha kind of has died down significantly. Compared to what it was during the off season, during the announcement. Just because Doran's played well. He has. And Zeus has played okay. Like, I feel like he's not like having a horrible season or anything, but he has definitely not made the same impact that he did when he was on T1 so far.
Going deeper into it, because, you know, we're speaking of T1, we have to bring up the drama bits. I have been told, as it's been translated by social media. It's actually, hang on, let me rephrase that so it doesn't sound like I have insider information. On YouTube Shorts in Korean, it is being said that the Guma fans are gonna go to the T1 game and leave the uniform inside LOL Park as a silent protest.
Wait, so you're saying, I hadn't heard about this. So you're saying, like, during the Hanwha series, T1 fans are going to wear their Guma jerseys, or bring them, I guess.
Bring them, yeah.
Or like wear them over some clothes. They're not going to like walk out naked, but they're gonna take their Guma UC jerseys and leave them on the chair, basically.
Yeah, they're gonna on the chair, because for T1 matches, especially when it comes to playoffs or big games, the seats are sold out in LoL Park. It's not big enough to obviously fit all the fans that want to come. So then in the lobby area, people just sit on the ground, like very polite and organized. I think they're gonna leave their jerseys there. Either they're gonna sit with the jersey on the ground or leave the jersey. But it is
like,
being
I mean, you're saying like
leaving the uniform.
I just want to make sure, like drape it over the chair, grab like your CGV popcorn and like empty drink thing, and then like walk out and just leave the jersey behind, and then just go home and just be like, well, I guess a janitor will find it. I feel like that will never happen, dGon. Not that is one person.
That is what is being said. A lot of people say a lot of things.
Yeah. A lot of people say a lot of things and then don't follow through. I feel like there's gonna be like maybe one fan there is like looking around like, did anyone else leave it? No? Okay, well, I'm taking mine. You know what I mean? Like, also those jerseys are expensive. Okay, and like, You're not gonna get it back. I mean, you could buy a new one if Guma suddenly becomes a starter, and you're gonna be like, oh god, I threw my jersey away for no reason. It's just not gonna. I just don't think that's ever gonna happen.
That is the Thursday here in Korea. Thursday match. I'm gonna go early. I'm gonna go early and watch, and just scope it out and see. Do we have any Guma Yushi wearing jerseys first? That's all. And then I'd be like, do they look angry? Do they look suspicious? Are they looking around to see if other people are looking around? And then we'll report back next week. But that is the deep cut drama that's happening.
I mean, I'm like thinking about this. It's so funny, like the idea of it. But like, if T1 lost, for example, like let's say if you think Smash is worse and you think they're going to lose because of it, and you're super confident in that, and when a team loses, all their fans leave, right? And they go outside and they go to either where the fan meet could potentially be, or they just go home, right? Because like, well, I'm not here to watch like the interview with our old player Zayas, like because he won and got POM. If they lost, and like you've seen the shots at Lol Park where like all the empty chairs are there where the team lost. When T1 loses specifically, you're like, wow, there's a lot of empty chairs because that was the majority of the fans. If they put their Guma jerseys up there after they lost, and you could see this wall of like Guma UC jerseys on the chairs of people left, and like they think they're basically making a statement, yeah, you should have kept Guma, or you should have been using Guma, that's why we lost. That'd be cool. But let's be honest, like they're not gonna lose. And Guma is like, and Smash is actually playing super well. I don't see it, dGon. But yeah, okay. Let's see. Like I'm with you on that. Like I'm pretty sure I'm working on that day, so I think I'm on the desk that day. So I'll go check with you. You want to see how many people are wearing them, and then like after the game, like how many are left behind, and maybe you and I will pick up some lost and found
Guma jerseys. Yeah. Sure. I'll look. I love free stuff. I'll be a tomato. Give me a tomato. I'll tomato it up. All right. Yeah, I just needed to bring that one up just because, again, this is the type of stuff, Wolf, that I always was interested in. Like, what does the Korean fan base think? Now we've got the plug, and there are several YouTube channels that, like, maybe like twice a day. There are like 3 or 4 YouTube channels twice a day that will upload shorts about this and use the comments that are across multiple different sites, and then you just have to be tedious and translate those. But I've got you covered, and that is the sad thing that the fans will do.
I just want to point out to people too that like to get a ticket to the T1 series,
it's so hard.
Always like the most competitive, hardest thing, and most T1 fans aren't like the people
most
who
of them
buy
correct.
Trucks or say things in our YouTube comments, or hate Smash and want Guma back or whatever. Yeah, I feel like most people who actually got tickets for this match are probably not the types who are like, you know what, I'm leaving my jersey behind.
I know, but like, there's a cafe where there's seats. They could put it in the cafe
area.
They
could do that. And
that cafe is right in front of our studio, and we have like the executive the English broadcast studio, and we have like the executive tempered glass. You push the button and you can see through it, and then you push the button again and then it's blurry. I'm gonna push the button and be like, hey, are there jerseys out there? Hold on, guys, we'll do the cast in a second. I gotta go get my free jersey.
I don't know, for some reason it feels kind of disrespectful to Guma as well to leave his jersey behind and just like let somebody else take it, or like I don't know, it gets thrown away because cleaning staff get it or something. Like I don't know. This is weird to me, dGon. This one.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep you posted on what the T1 fans do. All right. That was a little bit of a preview. We didn't pick the matches, especially. Well, I guess we did pick the first round matches. We don't know for certain who Dplus and GenG will pick. Just kind of quick thoughts on those two teams before we wrap it on up here, Wolf.
Oh, I think Dplus will definitely pick KT Nongshim winner, and that'll put, with our expectations, GenG into the T1 matchup, which will be fun. But right now, I give T1 a huge edge. That's really all I could speculate on at this point. Some things could change based on the gameplay we see, but Dplus, huge advantage because they have that first seed to be able to avoid Hanwha or T1 in that round 2 matchup.
Yeah. 4 matches this week. So just the Nongshim KT, T1 versus Hanwha, single elimination best of fives. There will be a day break for the teams to gather themselves, and then probably Dplus versus the winner of the top bracket versus GenG versus T1. We'll just call it now. All right, man. That was this week's episode. Not as many matches to go over. We appreciate all the comments that have been popping on up and creating some thought-provoking conversation to kick things off. And then there's the light. We thank our sponsors that have been supporting us here at Monte Wolf with dGon, KFE, Last Free Nation, and I thank you, Wolf. It's been a good week for you and I in terms of team bonding. Wolf and I are on the same team.
Yeah, we're on the same team. Hopefully B&K, DNF, and DRX can figure out how to do that during the offseason.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to watch those matches and then tune on in next week for more Monte Wolf action. See you later.